Luna Briggs adjusted the worn leather strap of her great-grandmother's rifle and tried to ignore the snickers from her squad. Again. "Hey Luna, you planning to hunt some space deer with that antique?" Corporal Jake Martinez called out, hefting his shiny new plasma rifle. "Maybe bag a few cosmic rabbits?" "It's a Winchester Model 70 from 1952, Luna replied, running her fingers along the walnut stock. "Chambered in .30-06. My great-grandmother used it to win 3 sharpshooting competitions." "Yeah, well, your great-grandmother didn't have to deal with energy shields and stealth armor," said Private Tommy Chen, polishing his plasma carbine. "This isn't some historical reenactment, Briggs." Luna sighed. Being the squad's resident history buff had its drawbacks, especially when your passion involved carrying what everyone else considered museum pieces into actual combat zones. The Galactic Defense Coalition had issued them the latest in plasma weaponry for this peacekeeping mission on Kepler 442 billion, but Luna couldn't bring herself to leave the old rifle behind. The mission briefing had been typical GDC optimism. Simple extraction of human colonists from a disputed territory, Command had said. Minimal resistance expected from local pirates. What they'd failed to mention was that these local pirates were actually advanced scouts from the Vorthak Supremacy, a militaristic alien species known for 2 things, incredible stealth technology and an ego the size of a small moon. Sergeant Rita Kowalski walked over, shaking her head. "Briggs, I get it. Family heirloom, sentimental value, blah blah blah. But when we're facing energy weapons and cloaking devices, maybe leave the Wild West show at home next time?" "Technically, this rifle was manufactured during the Korean War era, not the Wild West," Luna corrected. "And ballistically speaking, 100 and Prio, Nant, 70-grain bullet traveling at 2,900 feet per second still follows the same physics whether it's 1,952 or 2387. "Physics, schmisics," Tommy muttered. "Try explaining physics to an alien death ray." Luna hefted both weapons, her standard-issue plasma rifle slung across her back and the Winchester cradled in her arms. The old rifle felt solid, real, in a way that the humming energy weapons never did. Her great-grandmother had taught her that good equipment never went out of style, only improved with experience. Their transport shuddered as it entered Kepler 442 billion's atmosphere. Through the viewport, Luna could see the human colony nestled in a valley between 2 mountain ranges. Smoke rose from several buildings, but the settlement looked intact. Maybe Command was right about minimal resistance. 2 minutes to drop zone, announced their pilot. Sensors show some unusual energy signatures in the area, but nothing conclusive. Luna checked her ammunition pouch out of habit. 7 rounds of good old-fashioned lead and copper, each one hand-loaded by her grandfather before he'd passed. Probably overkill for a simple extraction mission, but Luna had learned that it was better to have and not need than to need and not have. Her squad mates were doing final equipment checks, their plasma weapons glowing softly in the dim transport lighting. State-of-the-art technology, each rifle worth more than Luna's annual salary. Yet something about them felt incomplete. Too clean, too perfect, too dependent on power cells and targeting computers. The transport touched down with a gentle thud, and the rear ramp began lowering. Whatever was waiting for them out there, Luna was ready. Even if her squad thought she was crazy for bringing a 70-year-old rifle to a space fight. The first sign something was wrong came when the trees started shimmering. Luna's squad had barely made it 50 meters from their transport when the air itself seemed to ripple like heat waves on summer asphalt. Then, with a sound like reality tearing at the seams, 12 massive figures materialized out of thin air. "Well, would you look at that?" Sergeant Kowalski muttered, raising her plasma rifle. "Guess those energy signatures weren't nothing after all." The aliens stood nearly 8 feet tall, covered in what looked like liquid mercury that had been convinced to stay solid. Their armor flowed and shifted constantly, making it impossible to focus on any specific detail. Each one carried weapons that hummed with barely contained energy, and their helmets displayed scrolling alien text that probably said something unpleasant about human life expectancy. But it was their leader who really made an impression. This one stood a full head taller than the rest, wearing armor that seemed to be having an argument with local physics about what color it should be. When he spoke, his voice carried the kind of authority that came from never being told no. "Greetings, inferior mammals," the alien announced, his translator making him sound like a classical theater actor with a head cold. "I am Overlord Krexthar of the Vorthak Supremacy. You have wandered into territory that now belongs to a superior species." "Superior species?" Jake snorted, though Luna noticed his plasma rifle was shaking slightly. "You guys look like walking disco balls." Krexthar tilted his massive head. "Disco balls? I am unfamiliar with this term, but I assume it refers to our magnificent stealth armor. Yes, tremble before technology your primitive minds cannot comprehend." Tommy opened fire first, his plasma bolt streaking toward the nearest Vorthak soldier. The superheated energy struck the alien's armor and simply dispersed. Like water hitting a windshield, the plasma spread across the surface and dissipated harmlessly. "Impossible," Tommy gasped. "That was a direct hit." The Vorthak soldiers began laughing, a sound like grinding metal trying to be musical. Krexthar gestured grandly with one clawed hand. "Behold the futility of your weapons against Vorthak technology. Our stealth armor doesn't merely bend light, you simple creatures. It disperses all forms of energy. Your plasma weapons are as effective as throwing flower petals." Sergeant Kowalski tried next, then Jake, then the rest of the squad. Every plasma bolt, every energy beam, every high-tech projectile simply scattered harmlessly against the alien's armor like rain on a roof. "This is impossible," Jake stammered as his weapon's power cell began blinking red. "These things are supposed to punch through starship hulls." "Indeed they are," Krexthar agreed pleasantly, "when used against inferior technology. But you face the pinnacle of Vorthak engineering. Our stealth armor represents 10,000 years of technological advancement." The Vorthak soldiers moved with predatory grace, surrounding Luna's squad with casual efficiency. Their weapons remained lowered, but the threat was clear. They weren't even bothering to take the humans seriously. "Tell me, mammals," Krexthar continued, clearly enjoying himself. "Did you truly believe your crude energy weapons could harm beings who have mastered the fundamental forces of the universe? We have conquered 17 star systems with this technology." Luna watched her squadmates panic as their weapons proved useless. Tommy was frantically checking his rifle's power settings, Jake was slapping his carbine like that might fix everything, and Sergeant Kowalski was shouting into her communicator for immediate evac. But Luna just stood there, Winchester held casually in her hands, and smiled. 10,000 years of technological advancement, she mused aloud. That's impressive. Tell me, Krexthar, in all that time, did anyone ever just try shooting you with a regular bullet? The Overlord's helmet turned toward her, alien text scrolling faster across his visor. A regular bullet. Do you mean a primitive kinetic projectile? Child, we mastered energy dispersal technology when your species was still discovering fire. What possible threat could ancient chemical propulsion pose to armor that deflects pure energy? Luna worked the Winchester's bolt with a satisfying click-clack, chambering a round that had been hand-loaded with loving precision by her grandfather 30 years ago. Guess we're about to find out. The Vorthak soldiers looked at Luna's rifle and burst into what could generously be called laughter but sounded more like someone gargling gravel in a blender. Is that a projectile weapon? Wheezed one of the smaller aliens, his armor shimmering with what Luna was pretty sure was amusement. From the primitive chemical combustion era? Technical Officer Blixmore stepped forward, his armor cycling through various shades of condescending blue. His helmet projected a scanning beam that played over Luna's Winchester like a grocery store price gun having an existential crisis. Fascinating, Blixmore announced, his voice carrying the excitement of a scientist discovering a particularly interesting type of mold. This appears to be a manually operated, bolt-action rifle utilizing crude chemical propulsion to accelerate metallic projectiles. The technology level is primitive beyond measure. How primitive are we talking here? Asked another Vorthax soldier, leaning in closer to examine the rifle like it might bite him. According to my scans, this weapon operates on principles that predate even basic energy manipulation, Blixmore explained gleefully. It literally uses controlled explosions to throw pieces of metal. The targeting system appears to be these crude optical lenses mounted on the barrel, and the operator must manually cycle each projectile into the firing chamber. Krexthar strode over, his massive frame casting a shadow that seemed to bend light in impossible directions. You mean to tell me that this inferior mammal is carrying a weapon from her species' Stone Age? Not quite Stone Age, my lord, Blixmore corrected with scientific precision. More like their early industrial period. I estimate this particular specimen was manufactured approximately 435 of their solar cycles ago. The laughter that erupted from the Vorthax soldiers could have powered a small city. Even their armor seemed to be chuckling, colors rippling in patterns that Luna was fairly certain translated to really freaking funny. A 400-year-old projectile weapon. Krexthar gasped between guffaws. Against stealth armor that disperses the fundamental forces of reality. This is the most adorable thing I have encountered in 6 conquests. Luna shifted the rifle to a more comfortable position and smiled sweetly. My great-grandmother always said it's not about the size of your gun, it's about knowing how to use it. Your great-grandmother was clearly a wise mammal, Krexthar said patronizingly. Sadly, wisdom cannot overcome the laws of physics. Our armor is designed to disperse any form of energy that strikes it. Your primitive projectile would need to possess kinetic force equivalent to a small starship to even scratch our defensive systems. Actually, Luna said thoughtfully, according to my calculations, this particular load generates about 3,000 foot-pounds of kinetic energy at the muzzle. That's roughly equivalent to getting hit by a small vehicle traveling at highway speeds. The aliens found this even funnier. Blixmore was practically doubled over, his armor flashing patterns that probably meant I'm laughing so hard I can barely breathe. 3,000 energy units. He wheezed. My lord, for comparison, our armor regularly disperses plasma bolts carrying over 50,000 energy units. This creature's weapon generates less force than a child's training implement. Magnificent, Krexthar declared, clapping his hands together with a sound like thunder applauding. Simply magnificent. Soldiers, capture the others, but leave this one free. I wish to observe this primitive weapon in action. Perhaps we shall keep her as a pet, or donate her to the Galactic Museum of Inferior Species. Luna's squad mates were quickly surrounded and disarmed, their high-tech weapons confiscated with casual efficiency. Jake shot her a look that said do something, while Tommy just looked resigned to becoming an alien science experiment. You know, Luna said conversationally as the Vorthax soldiers secured her friends, my grandfather used to tell me stories about overconfident opponents. He said the funny thing about underestimating your enemy is that you only get to do it once. Krexthar's helmet tilted in what might have been curiosity. Your grandfather sounds like another wise mammal. Sadly, wisdom cannot alter the fundamental nature of reality. But please, by all means, demonstrate your ancient weapon. We are eager to be educated. Luna worked the bolt again, the mechanical action smooth and precise after decades of careful maintenance. Around her, 12 of the galaxy's most advanced warriors waited to watch her fire a weapon they considered barely more dangerous than a pointed stick. Oh, I'll definitely be providing an education today, Luna said, raising the Winchester to her shoulder. Question is, who's going to be learning what? Krexthar's command tent was exactly what Luna expected from a megalomaniac with delusions of grandeur, way too big, covered in holographic displays showing things that were probably important, and furnished with the kind of chair that screamed, I'm definitely the villain in this story. Two Vorthak soldiers dragged Luna inside while Krexthar settled into his ridiculous throne with all the ceremony of a king holding court. The tense walls shimmered with the same light-bending technology as their armor, making everything look like she was seeing it through water. "Now then, primitive mammal," Krexthar began, gesturing grandly at a holographic display that showed rotating images of Vorthak technology. "Allow me to educate you about the superiority of advanced civilization over crude barbarism." Luna shifted her weight, casually adjusting her grip on the Winchester while appearing to pay rapt attention. The aliens clearly loved explaining how clever they were, which worked out perfectly since she needed more information about their tech. "Behold," Krexthar announced as the hologram showed a detailed schematic of Vorthak armor. "Our stealth technology doesn't merely bend electromagnetic radiation. It creates a localized field that disperses any form of energy that comes into contact with it. Plasma, laser, particle beams, even basic heat and radiation simply scatter harmlessly across the surface." "That's fascinating," Luna said, playing up her role as the ignorant primitive. "So the armor breaks down energy and spreads it around?" "Precisely." Krexthar preened. "The field analyzes incoming energy signatures and disperses them across a wide area, reducing their effective force to virtually nothing. A plasma bolt that should vaporize steel becomes nothing more than a gentle warming sensation." Technical Officer Blacksmore stepped forward, his armor cycling through educational shades of blue and green. "The beauty of the system lies in its universal application. All weapons in the known galaxy operate on energy-based principles. Even primitive projectile weapons rely on chemical energy conversion, which our armor easily handles." "Chemical energy conversion?" Luna asked innocently. "The crude explosive compounds in your ancient ammunition," Blacksmore explained patiently. "When your projectile strikes our armor, the dispersal field detects the chemical energy signature and neutralizes it instantly. The projectile simply bounces off harmlessly." Luna nodded thoughtfully, remembering her grandfather's voice from 40 years ago. Old Pete Briggs had been a Marine sniper in 3 different conflicts, and he'd taught Luna everything he knew about ballistics during long summer afternoons at the shooting range. "You see, kiddo," she could hear him saying, "most folks think shooting is about the boom and the flash. But real shooting is about physics. Simple, old-fashioned physics." "That's really impressive technology," Luna said aloud. "But I'm curious about something. You said the armor disperses energy, right? What about simple kinetic force?" Krexthar's helmet tilted slightly. "Kinetic force?" "You know, basic impact energy. Like when one thing hits another thing really, really hard." The aliens exchanged what Luna interpreted as puzzled looks. Blacksmore's armor shifted to confused yellow patterns. "Well, naturally the armor can handle kinetic impact," he said uncertainly. "I mean, kinetic energy is still energy. Our dispersal field should theoretically—" He trailed off, and Luna could practically hear the gears turning in his alien brain. "The thing is," Luna continued conversationally, "my grandfather always told me that fancy technology sometimes overthinks simple problems. He used to say that if you build a better mousetrap, someone's just going to build a bigger mouse." She hefted the Winchester, feeling its familiar weight. "This old rifle doesn't use energy dispersal or plasma containment or particle acceleration. It just uses good old-fashioned Isaac Newton. You know Newton, right? Little matter of every action having an equal and opposite reaction?" Krexthar was leaning forward now, his confident posture starting to waver slightly. "Aye, our technology is designed to handle all forms of weapons." "Sure, all forms of energy weapons," Luna agreed. "But here's the thing about a 170-grain bullet traveling at 2,900 feet per second. It's not trying to be fancy. It's just a chunk of lead and copper that wants to keep going in a straight line until something stops it." She could see Blacksmore frantically consulting his holographic displays, alien text scrolling faster and faster across his visor. "The dispersal field is calibrated for energy signatures," he muttered. but pure kinetic impact without significant energy conversion would theoretically go right through your fancy armor like it wasn't there, Luna finished helpfully. Because sometimes the old ways work best. The tent went very, very quiet. Luna raised the Winchester to her shoulder with the smooth, practiced motion of someone who'd been doing it since she was 12 years old. The familiar stock settled against her cheek, the scope's crosshairs finding their target with mechanical precision. "Now, wait just a minute," Krexthar started, his voice losing its condescending tone for the first time since they'd met. The Winchester spoke with the authority of 400 years of proven ballistics. Crack. Crack. The sound echoed through the command tent like thunder in a cathedral. 170 grains of lead and copper, lovingly hand-loaded by Luna's grandfather, crossed the 20-foot distance in roughly 1/145th of a second. Krexthar's stealth armor didn't disperse the bullet. It didn't scatter the kinetic energy. It didn't even slow it down. The projectile punched through the Overlord's chest plate like it was made of tissue paper, continued through his alien anatomy with unwavering determination, and exited through the back of his armor with a spray of whatever Vorthak used for blood. The mighty Overlord Krexthar, terror of 17 star systems, looked down at the neat hole in his chest with the expression of someone who'd just been told that gravity was optional. That's impossible," he wheezed, green fluid leaking from his armor's joints. "Our technology is, we conquered." He toppled over backward with a crash that shook the entire tent. The remaining Vorthak soldiers stared in absolute horror as their supposedly invincible leader bled out on the floor of his own command center. Luna worked the bolts smoothly, ejecting the spent cartridge and chambering a fresh round. 6 shots left, she announced cheerfully. "Who's next in the education program?" Chaos erupted. Technical Officer Blykesmore lunged for his weapon, screaming something in alien that probably translated to "kill the primitive." Luna put a bullet through his helmet before he made it 3 steps. The round punched clean through his head armor and dropped him like a sack of angry potatoes. 2 more Vorthak soldiers tried to rush her from opposite sides. Luna's grandfather had taught her to work a bolt-action rifle like a precision instrument, and she'd practiced the technique thousands of times. Shoot, work the bolt, acquire the next target, shoot again. The rhythm was as natural as breathing. 4 shots, 2 more dead aliens. The surviving Vorthak began firing wildly with their energy weapons, but Luna was already moving. She rolled behind Krexthar's ridiculous throne as plasma bolts sizzled overhead, worked the bolt, and came up shooting. The 5th bullet caught a soldier in the throat, dropping him in a gurgling heap. The 6th took down another one trying to flank her position. "This is impossible," screamed the last remaining Vorthak, his armor cycling through panic colors that probably meant "oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no." "You cannot defeat superior technology with primitive weapons." Luna chambered her final round and smiled at him over the rifle's iron sights. "Here's the thing about superior technology, pal. Sometimes simple just works better." The 7th and final bullet ended the conversation permanently. Outside the tent, Luna could hear shouting and the unmistakable sound of her squadmates fighting their way free. Apparently, the sight of their invincible alien captors getting systematically shot to pieces had broken whatever spell had been keeping them paralyzed. Jake's voice carried clearly through the tent walls. "The plasma rifles work fine when they're not wearing armor. Light 'em up." Luna reloaded quickly, muscle memory guiding her hands through the familiar process of feeding cartridges into the Winchester's magazine. 7 more rounds of her grandfather's carefully crafted ammunition, each one a perfect marriage of powder, primer, and projectile. She stepped over Krexthar's corpse and pushed through the tent flap to find her squad mopping up the remaining Vorthak forces. Without their supposedly impenetrable armor to protect them, the aliens were just another group of overconfident bullies facing pissed-off humans with superior firepower. "Luna," Sergeant Kowalski called out, plasma rifle smoking in her hands. Whatever you did in there, it worked. These bastards are running scared. Luna worked the Winchester's bolt and grinned. Just gave them a little lesson in applied physics, Sarge. Turns out their fancy armor was designed to stop energy weapons, not good old-fashioned kinetic projectiles. Tommy Chen jogged over, his face split by an enormous grin. I can't believe you took down their whole command structure with that antique. How'd you know it would work? My grandfather always said that if something's been working for 400 years, there's probably a good reason for it, Luna replied, patting the Winchester's stock affectionately. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. 3 hours later, Luna sat on a crate of recovered supplies, cleaning her rifle while the rest of her squad finished securing the area. The Vorthak forces had retreated so fast they'd left half their equipment behind, including several intact suits of their supposedly invincible stealth armor. I owe you an apology, Sergeant Kowalski said, settling down beside Luna with 2 cups of coffee that had definitely seen better days. We all do. Luna accepted the coffee gratefully and shrugged. No harm done, Sarge. I get it. Who brings a bolt-action rifle to a space fight? Someone who understands that technology isn't always about having the newest, shiniest gadget, Jake said, walking over with his plasma rifle slung casually across his back. Command's been on the radio for the past hour trying to figure out how a single Marine with a 400-year-old rifle took down an entire Vorthak command structure. Tommy appeared with a holographic tablet displaying what looked like technical schematics. I've been analyzing their armor with our equipment. Luna, you were absolutely right about the physics. Their dispersal field is incredible at handling energy-based attacks, but it's completely useless against simple kinetic projectiles. It's like they designed the perfect defense against every modern weapon, Luna mused, but forgot that bullets haven't stopped working just because we invented plasma rifles. Her communicator crackled to life with the voice of Colonel Mo Martinez from Orbital Command. Marine Briggs, this is Command. We've received your after-action report, and frankly, it reads like science fiction. Please confirm that you single-handedly neutralized a Vorthak command element using a 20th century rifle. That's affirmative, sir, Luna replied. Winchester Model 70, chambered in .30-06, manufactured in 1952. 7 rounds, 7 confirmed kills on targets wearing advanced stealth armor. A long pause. Marine, I'm looking at ballistics reports that say the Vorthak stealth armor can deflect Starship-grade weaponry. Yes, sir, it can. But it turns out there's a difference between dispersing energy and stopping a chunk of lead moving at 2,900 feet per second. Another pause, this one even longer. Briggs, how soon can you get back to base? Research and Development wants to talk to you. Apparently they're very interested in your unconventional approach to advanced alien technology. Luna grinned and patted her rifle stock. Any chance they'll want to talk to my grandfather's reloading notes too, sir? At this point, Marine, I think they'd be interested in your family's grocery lists if they thought it would help them understand how you just revolutionized interstellar warfare. 6 months later, Luna stood in the armory of the GDC flagship, watching techs load magazines of specially designed kinetic rounds into what the Corps had officially designated the Briggs pattern anti-stealth rifle. It looked remarkably similar to her great-grandmother's Winchester, just with better materials and a few modern improvements. Hard to believe it took us 3 centuries of space warfare to rediscover the effectiveness of throwing rocks really, really hard, commented Master Sergeant Williams, examining one of the new rifles with professional interest. Sometimes the wheel doesn't need reinventing, Luna replied, still carrying her original Winchester alongside the new standard issue model. Sometimes it just needs remembering. The latest intelligence reports were almost comical. Vorthak forces across 3 sectors had begun retreating whenever human ships appeared on sensors, but apparently convinced that humanity had developed some kind of superweapon that could penetrate their defenses. Other alien species were frantically trying to acquire human kinetic technology, not realizing that the secret was literally older than some of their civilizations. Luna's communicator buzzed with a priority message from Command. Marine Briggs, report to Briefing Room 7. We've got reports of a new alien faction with energy-absorbing shields, and Command thinks they might need some old-fashioned education. Luna smiled and slung both rifles across her shoulders. Her great-grandmother's Winchester and the modern version, old wisdom and new application working together. "Come on, girls," she said affectionately to the rifles. "Sounds like there are more overconfident aliens who need to learn about the finer points of Newtonian physics." After all, some lessons were best taught the traditional way. And as her grandfather always said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Sometimes the old ways really were the best ways, especially when you were dealing with aliens who thought they were too smart for their own good. The galaxy was about to get another education in the enduring effectiveness of good old-fashioned human stubbornness, one bullet at a time.